Are you thinking of buying a brand new guitar, amp, or effects pedals in 2023? Stop right there and don't waste your money. Stay tuned and I'm going to show you why. In my almost 35 years of playing the guitar, I've owned about 30 guitars. And out of those 30, I've only ever bought 2 brand new ones. One of which I still own to this day and is on the wall behind me, and I'm going to kind of cover that one in just a little bit. But all the other gear I've ever bought was used, secondhand, and I got it at a heck of a bargain. And I'm going to go through all the pros and cons of new versus used gear. Here's why I like used gear over new gear. The thing with used gear is that typically you can get a really nice piece, something that was either made in the USA or made in Japan, for about the same money as some of the brand new Indonesian, Korean, and even Chinese made guitars these days. And I don't know about you, but I would much rather have a high quality American or Japanese instrument. This is the second used guitar I ever owned. This is a 1987 Gibson ES 335 dot neck. And at the time when my parents bought this for me, which was back in the late 80s, early 90s, the guitar sold for $600. And if you go on reverb.com or even on eBay, you will see that used 335s from this era are fetching quite a hefty price tag. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go back in time to try to score a Gibson for $600, but all things being equal, the guitar has appreciated in value much more so than at the time a $600 brand new Epiphone would have appreciated in value. Now would be a good time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications so you see when the newest video comes out. This is another used guitar that I got back in the early 90s. This is a 1987 Ibanez 540 Radius. Now, it did not come in this color, and it did not have these fancy mother of pearl neck inlays in it. I was fortunate enough to be able to save a little bit of money, and I had the late Herc Fede, I believe is how you pronounce his name, who was just a master of painting Ibanez's, and he's most notably known for his swirl paint jobs that he did on Ibanez's. I sent this to him, and he did this custom Donnie Hunt replica Joe Satriani paint job on it, and I also had him put the inlays on it. The guitar, I believe we paid $225 for this guitar, and it is a Japanese-made Ibanez, just a wonderful, excellent guitar. So even at the $225 price point, I was still able to drop a few $100s more for the paint job and the inlays and have a really cool custom guitar. This is the second ever new guitar that I ever purchased back in 2005. This is an Ibanez Prestige RG 1520, and I got this one from IbanezRules.com. Rich Harris over there, just amazing at picking out the choicest Ibanez's that he can get his hands on. And I believe I paid a little over $1,100 for this guitar brand new. But I tell you, these guitars are probably averaging between $600 and $700 used. Completely Japanese made, just high quality Ibanez guitar. You just can't go wrong with one of these, and I would much rather have a used Japanese Ibanez than anything made in China or Indonesia or any other Asian country for that matter for the same price. Another one of my favorite guitars is this, I think this is a 1989 Charvel Fusion Custom. And I remember in high school, a friend of mine had one of these, and I just thought it was the coolest guitar. And I finally scored one on Reverb, and I paid $800 for it used and made in Japan. It's not an American Charvel or anything like that. But you know, back then, Charvel and Jackson were basically the same company before they split up and went separate ways. And I tell you, for the money, you can't beat this guitar. I mean, it's made as well as any other Japanese guitar manufacturer would build a guitar. And if you look at some of the Charvels these days, I believe Fender owns them. A lot of them are made in Mexico. And not that I have anything against Mexican-made guitars, but if I had my choice, I'm going to go with a Japanese or an American guitar any day of the week. Now I mentioned I'd only ever owned 2 brand new guitars that I paid premium price for. Back in the early 90s, I worked at a music store in high school, and Reb Beach, the guitarist for Winger, came to do a guitar clinic. And of course, me being an employee at the store, I had a front row seat to watch all of his fingerboard antics, especially the finger tapping, which he is pretty phenomenal at. So while this is not the exact one that I bought, I did own a brand new 91 Reb Beach Voyager model that was same color as this one. And like a fool, I sold it because I just didn't think it was cool anymore. Now, buying used Japanese guitars is, to me, a good, solid investment. Where it gets expensive is when you get into signature models such as the Steve Vai's, the Joe Satriani's, anything that was associated with an actual player that endorsed the guitar. Those are going to go for a heftier price tag. Now, what makes these guitars unique is that Ibanez only made them for 3 years. So very unique body cutout to it. Just a really cool piece. Very rare. You just don't see these very often. And when this one came up on Reverb, I said, you know what, I'm going to get it. My go-to axe lately has been this 1986 Kramer American Pacer. My first ever guitar I had as a young teenager was a Kramer Focus 3000, and unfortunately sold that guitar because it just wasn't very bright back then. And just to kind of relive a childhood memory, I said I'm going to get a better one than what I had as a kid. Now, while these guitars are getting rarer and rarer, harder to find, they are a little bit more expensive than some of the more mass-produced Ibanez RG models and other Ibanez type guitars that are still available. A lot of these guitars, because Kramer basically went out of business at the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of these guitars were either destroyed or just so badly abused that they're so beat up. Or a lot of people just took them apart and are selling just the parts for them on Reverb. But occasionally you can find a cool one like this that has the maple board on it. I did upgrade the pickups in it to EMGs. It's a really killer axe. And I think I paid about $1,700 for this one. It did need a complete refret on it, and that cost me a few $100s. So I've got a little over $2,000 in this guitar, which it was a unique niche guitar for me, so I could justify the expense on it. So not only guitars do I try to find used bargains on, but amplifiers as well. So I've got this 1980 Roland Jazz Chorus JC120, which from the 1980s, these were the go-to clean amp standard of the time. Just about any recording you bring up from the 80s, at some point in the recording studio or even live performances, they were using the JC120. Heck, all of Metallica's early albums, all the clean sounds were done with the Roland JC120. And I was watching the One video the other night, and if you notice near the end of the song where it shows them all playing together in that warehouse type setting, if you look in the background, you can see a couple of JC120s sitting on top of some cabinets back there, which is pretty cool. Definitely a great solid state amp, in my opinion, the best solid state amp ever built. Here's another killer amp score. This actually came off Facebook Marketplace for a crazy $50. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of comments on that, people maybe disputing that, but it is a fact that this amp in original condition, all functioning, all the tubes in it, RCA tubes, $50. A lady was upset with her husband who had just passed away. So the first person that came along and offered her cash, she honored that, even though other people were reaching out to her saying they'd give a lot more than that for this amp. This is a 1976 Vibrolux Reverb, and it is just one of the most killer Fender amps ever made. Just such a versatile, just awesome amplifier. Now here's another great one here. This came off of reverb.com, and this is a 1974 twin reverb. And while the twins probably don't fetch as high of a price tag as the Vibrolux reverbs do, I think just because of the weight And just the size of it, to me, it is just such a phenomenal sounding amp. And I picked this one up for $1,000 with a flight case included for free. To me, there's no substitute for a vintage tube amp. While the push towards, more modeling and your Kempers and things like that and plugins, a lot of people are going that direction. I'm going the opposite direction and trying to obtain all of the classic amps that I can. And if you just keep your eyes open on Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, Reverb, occasionally a steal will pop up, but when you see it, you gotta jump on it. Here's another iconic amp that I picked up. It was labeled as a store demo on Reverb. However, when I received the amplifier, and this is a 1959 100-watt Super Lead Plexi, when I got it, it was still factory sealed. I think that when they shipped this out from the warehouse, the seller on Reverb, they messed up and they had sent me a brand new factory sealed Plexi head. And I paid about $1,000 less for this. I think at the time these were going for about $3,600 for the head, and I got it for $2,600. Let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions or comments related to anything that I discussed with you today, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know about some of those sweet deals that you've come across, because they're out there. If you just, like I said, keep your eyes and ears open, you can actually hook up on some really great stuff. Don't forget to subscribe to Joe's Fancy Guitar Studio. Turn on those bell notifications so you see when I upload a new video. And check out some other videos from the playlist right here. Till next time, I'll see you guys later. Keep rocking on.